Hi there. Thank you so much for sticking with us here live on our Coffee with Stan return. What an amazing conversation we just had with Representative Andrea Salinas. Isn't she inspiring? I mean, someone who is really taking day to day lives and making real changes. So inspirational, as was Sam Drismala from Progressive Victory. Just again thinking, can you imagine that his average age is 24 years old of the people that he's bringing into political activism and into the conversation? As we move through the rest of today, we're about to jump in with the amazing Congresswoman Sharice Davids, and then at 1:30, Representative Chris Pappas. At 2 p.m., congressional candidate Laura Gillen, and at 2:30, Representative Pat Ryan. But I am excited now. I had the chance to sit over a little bit of breakfast with Congresswoman Sharice Davids, who's the U.S. Representative for Kansas' 3rd District, first elected in 2018. She's one of the first 2 Native American women elected to Congress and the first LGBTQ plus Native American to serve. She's raised by a single mom, like me, who served in the U.S. Army, and she worked her way through college, eventually earning a law degree from Cornell Law School. Before Congress, she worked in the White House as a fellow in the Department of Transportation and in community development in Native American reservations. It was with great pride that I welcome Congresswoman Sharice Davids. How are you?
Yeah, hi Stan. It's good to
It's the
see
old
you.
unmute yourself. Things may
Yeah.
change, but the unmute yourself
Oh,
never will. How are
uh,
you?
well, I'm so glad to get to see you. I also am excited about all the different candidates and and members and everybody that you're talking to. I'm so glad you're like taking the initiative and helping spread the word.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, you're on the front lines or you're in it. You're in the fight every day. For those of us on the outside, not quite as bad as MMA, where you also have a great history, but it is almost hard to watch and to listen. And our goal with this podcast, this series of conversations, is to go to the really interesting points, the things that you
Mhm,
are working on every single
mhm,
day, that when you meet with someone that you represent in your district, you're able to see in their eyes and get those hugs of someone who said, you know what, you put in all this work and the result is that my life has been touched. And it's this personal connection from government to individual, which not everyone gets to hear about. Some people don't feel, or they feel in negative ways. And I know that so much of the work that you do has affected people in really positive ways. So we're going to focus on that and dive in. So, welcome
mhm.
aboard. I wanted to start, if it's all right with you, on it is a hot button issue, but I know that you're approaching it from some really pragmatic ways, and that is the
Mm,
cost of living, right? So
mm,
your mom, I know from your own personal stories, is an individual who has always worked in service, right? Always been a part of the public sector in her professions. And that cost of living, this inflation that we have all lived through, has affected all of us, and I know has affected your mom because of some of the stories that you've told on the campaign trail, because I've listened to so many of your videos. So, can you talk a little bit about what you know to be true in terms of that day to day cost, how inflation is impacting your constituents, and the kinds of things that you see are working, and the kinds of things you'd like to add to what's working?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for this question. I certainly did watch my mom like work so hard. She raised my brothers and I by herself, and yeah, and she was always in the public sector. She was enlisted in the Army for 20 years, and then she actually spent 20 years at the US Postal Service. And now that she's retired and she's on a fixed income, I get to see that in a much more, of course, up close and personal sort of way. But in conversations with folks all around the district, here in Kansas, the cost of everything from gas to groceries to prescription drugs is something that gets brought up in almost every single conversation. And it's truly one of the reasons that I think it's so important for us to keep up some of this momentum that we have to do things like secure our supply chains. We got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to invest in things like resilient and sustainable infrastructure so that stuff can get where it needs to go. Making sure that we're actually building stuff here at home, so boosting that domestic manufacturing. We're actually in the middle of one of the biggest projects that's actually it might be the biggest project that's ever come to Kansas. There's a Panasonic plant that's being built that's going to be making EV batteries. And this is something that took a bipartisan effort to make sure that that investment came here. And I was proud to get the chance to do that. So, like you said, looking at this from a pragmatic point of view, is Kansas is definitely a place where people want to know that you're working to get stuff done, that you're working to bring down their costs. So those things, plus finally getting Medicare the ability to negotiate some of these prescription drug costs. I got a chance to visit with a woman who uh, my dog is for sure gonna be coming through, just so
Oh,
everybody
good.
knows.
Oh, we
Um,
want to meet your dog. We're all dog
okay.
lovers, so if your dog makes an appearance, that'll just make everything all the better.
Oh. So, but things like making sure that, there's about 74,000 Kansans who are going to save almost 80% on some of these prescription drug costs. And I was at an event not that long ago, and a woman came up to me and said that her husband normally pays $180 for these prescriptions that, I mean, these are necessary for him. And he is now only going to be paying $18 for those
Wow,
medications.
wow.
So these are the kinds of things that people want to see us moving on. And, I know there's still more work to be done, but I'm pretty proud of the track record that we have and momentum we've built up.
Do you mind, Sharice? It's very interesting to me to hear that a plant is being built and that you were a part of getting that energy to your area, literally, if they're going to be making EVs, batteries. So, what is
Start
that?
using
Yeah, thank you. One for me, one for you. What does that mean? So the plant will be under construction for how long? How many jobs approximately will come with
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Can you just walk us through like what it really means to
Yes.
have a plant opening?
So it's a $4 billion project, and this is something that it took the Kansas State Legislature, our governor, our lieutenant governor, and Secretary of Commerce. I took a trip out to visit with the folks at Panasonic alongside Senator Jerry Moran, who's on the Republican side of the aisle, our state Senate president, who's on the Republican side of the aisle, our governor, who's a Democrat. We all went and had meetings with the Panasonic folks for multiple reasons. One, we got to make sure that they know what we're bringing to the table, but also we need to make sure that when they come to Kansas, that the culture lines up, and that they know how important things like our public education system are to us, and that these projects are done in the right way. It's about 4,000 jobs to start off with, and that's in the plant. That doesn't count all the construction jobs that are happening right now. They're in the middle of uh, one. I mean, this is a pretty phenomenal project. The size and scale of it is huge, and it's opening at the beginning of next year. So sometime in the first quarter of 2025, the first line will start, and yeah, and it's really really exciting.
I think the thing that I really take away from what you just said was the bipartisan approach, right? Whether
Mm.
you're Republican or a Democrat in Kansas, Jobs, 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 right? The idea that you can have a job, run your small business. You know, I'm from a family of small business owners. I have my own business as an independent contractor in real estate. You know, we have to have fuel for the fire, right? There has to be something to do, whether you're serving lunch to the people that work at the plant, building houses for the people that are working at the plant, doing all of the pieces that will support 4,000 individuals with full and part-time jobs at that plant. So it just leads me to maybe just a little bit of a, if you could guess, how much of your day is actually bipartisan? If you forget about the politics, how much of the day is actually, hey, we're just here working on
Definitely.
things to get things done? I bet it's a fairly high percentage, I'm going to guess.
It is actually. It's a pretty high percentage, partly because I'm a Democrat in a somewhat red state, you know? I mean, um we're I feel like Kansans are again pragmatic. I know I already said that, but also uh, are really focused more on the person, the task at hand, getting stuff done than the political partisanship. But when it comes to the work I do every day, man, I bet it's three-quarters of it or something. I don't know. I mean, I have 5 counties in this there are 5 counties in this district. I spend a lot of my time working with our city councils, our county commissions, our state and local electeds, and our business owners. And uh, we're not talking about political party line items. We're just talking about what are the needs of the Kansas Third and how are we going to get those things done. And so I would say that most of the time it feels more nonpartisan than even bipartisan, if that makes sense.
Right.
But it's something that I really appreciate about this area is that I get the chance to work with people on a variety of things, whether we agree on every issue or not.
Yeah. I think, too, Sharice, you represent some minority groups, both through your heritage and through being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, as I am. I wonder in Kansas, in your districts, how often are those hats on you? How often are you advocating, and how often are you simply being you, which, in my opinion, having met you, is the best possible advocate, right? Because you are doing the work and you are delivering. So, that to me is the advocacy. But I do know that you have put your name and energy in the Congress into specific areas there. Are there any that you'd like to talk about with our group?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say there are quite a few areas, or quite a few pieces of legislation that I would highlight as like just being proud to be able to work on, for the LGBTQ plus communities. I think what we're seeing across the country is this very concerning effort to put forward anti-LGBTQ plus uh, legislation, policies. Sometimes it's rhetoric, and I'm always going to push back on any attempts to minimize or discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community because well, one, it's just not right to do that, and two, one of the first things that I supported when I got to Congress was the Equality Act, and I think that there are a lot of people who might not realize like the full range of LGBTQ plus rights that are infringed upon on a daily basis, and depending on what state you're in, I represent the Kansas Third. I I go to Washington D.C. I vote on legislation on behalf of over 700,000 people in this district in this community, and I could also be turned away for housing in if I wanted to go buy a condo or a house or rent an apartment. I could be turned away. And in the state of Kansas, that's perfectly legal. It doesn't make it right, but that's why we need things like the Equality Act to be passed. The other thing that I do often share with folks is when it comes to the Equality Act, we have passed that out of the House twice since I've been in Congress. It has garnered bipartisan support both of those times. And I also, while at the same time we need to actually get this bill passed, I also think it's really important that people know that there are a lot of people in the Congress who want LGBTQ plus people to be able to live their lives free of discrimination in the same way that everybody else um, legally has a protected right to. It turns out folks just want the same rights and responsibilities as everybody else. And so I'm going to keep fighting for that. There are other issues around things like you know protecting our youth and LGBTQ plus families, making sure that people have access to the resources that they need and training that they need and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah. Well, I
Sure.
couldn't agree with you more, right? We're human beings. We are human
Yeah.
beings. Like, we just want to yell. Well, wait a minute. We're about to meet a non human being, I feel, although I'm sure you think of this little one as your human being. Hello. Who's this?
This is Peanut.
Hi, Peanut.
He's he's probably about 3. He
Okay.
also has 2 legs, so
Hello,
he's a little
3-year-old
tripod.
Peanut. How are you?
Um,
Are
and
you often on screen, Peanut, or is this a
He's not
debut?
usually. He's just, I think for whatever reason today, he's like really wanting my attention.
Into it. Into it.
Maybe he wanted all of your
We
attention.
all want to be with you. Well, Peanut, there's no better fundraiser than a dog, they say. So, of course, everyone watching knows that they
What
can
I
click
love is
on
that people,
Peanut. Remind everyone to click and donate to Act Blue for Congresswoman Sharice Davids and to share our conversation and even to donate time. Sharice, one of the things that's been really impressive to me is how
uh-huh.
many people I'm talking to from all over the country that are doing things like phone banking and traveling
Oh,
and
yeah.
door knocking. We started the day talking to a young man, Sam, who has progressive victory, and they've got average age 24-year-olds out knocking on doors that they're pulling from the gaming community. It is so
Oh, that's
so
amazing. Okay.
super cool. Yeah, super cool. So one of the people that I talk to almost every day is in a farming family down
Oh,
in the
yeah.
South. And I keep hearing these stories about how weather is taking crops away. And I wonder to myself, and I hope you don't mind diving in for a moment on this, on our
Oh, yeah.
third question around climate change, is in addition to what the longer term solutions may be, which you're clearly working on with an EV battery plant, creating jobs and also helping to create a cleaner environment, what do we do? What kinds of things have you learned that we can do today for a farmer? So if you've got a farmer in your community who loses a part of a crop because of an unstable weather, whether or not we are fighting for a future of cleaner air, they have needs today, right? And in the next
Uh-huh.
24 and 48 hours. And I know you've
Abs-
worked on this area in Congress. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because sitting here in New York City, there's not one friend or person I know or colleague who doesn't have a member of their family or another friend who is in a rural community who is farming and who depends on this kind of stable living. So, can you talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, I think that first of all, you're absolutely right. Our farmers and ranchers and ag community certainly feel the impacts of climate change. In a lot of ways, they're on the front lines of that because of things like here in Kansas, we have farmers and ranchers who are dealing with drought on one side of the state and flooding on the other side of the state. And so there are a lot of things that we need to be thinking about in the immediate. And I have focused on trying to make sure, I know I mentioned infrastructure earlier. I'm a huge infrastructure nerd. And to me, this is one of the ways that we really can set ourselves up for success as communities, and making sure that we've got the infrastructure necessary to reduce down the chances of flooding. So we've worked on that in this area. But one of the things that I actually didn't know as much about and have learned a bunch about in this last couple of years, because I'm on the agriculture committee now, is that farmers and ranchers spend a ton of time thinking about the climate, thinking about the changing weather patterns, and what they can do. In a lot of ways, they're kind of the earliest conservationists. The folks who are doing ag work, and that's certainly been true as a Native person. I know that's been true for a long time. But the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Interior have a bunch of programs that our farmers and ranchers are making use of, conservation programs to make sure that the soil is able to regenerate and stay rich in nutrients, so that when the next time they plant crops, those are taken care of. I know I meet tons of farmers who are doing things like the things that they can to reduce the need for as much water, doing no-till farming and using cover crops, and doing things that just reduce down any kind of negative impacts that might come from farming practices that folks are starting to um, reduce their use of. And then I would say that, like, the we passed the most like robust investment in addressing the climate crisis with the Inflation Reduction Act, and there are a bunch of provisions in there that are going to help us, whether it's in the ways that we're doing like energy production, making more use of renewables, or the ways that we're making use of these conservation programs that our farmers and ranchers are accessing a bunch. So there's a bunch of stuff that's going on in the here and now that of course are gonna help in the long term. And then there's the more long-term efforts. I actually started alongside this is a bipartisan caucus. We started the Sustainable Aviation Caucus. I did that alongside Dusty Johnson from South Dakota. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like him and I agree on everything. We don't. But when it comes to making sure that our aviation industry is moving toward more renewable and climate friendly sources and technologies, we're both interested in that. So we're working together on it.
I think maybe the thing I'm taking away from our conversation today is your ability to talk to people about what you do agree on, and find a way to work on that together. Because my guess is that once you've worked with someone, as you are doing in Congress and representing your district in Kansas, that same person, when it comes time for you to pick up the phone or talk to them about a topic that you disagree with them on, that conversation is going to be a lot more full. That conversation may actually reach that person because they've grown to respect and like you in the exact same way that I continue to grow to respect and to like and to admire you. And I truly hope that everyone that's joining us now will click through small donation, big donation, any donation to your campaign to make sure that you keep your seat in Congress, any kind of volunteer activity, or simply sharing this from YouTube or Facebook so that more people can get to know you and Peanut, Q Peanut. Is Peanut still there? Hey, Peanut, Q Peanut. Okay.
He likes to lay like this. He just
Love it.
leans and
Thank you
flaps
so
his head.
much for taking part of your day with us.
Oh
Your
my goodness, it's
campaign
so
and the
good to see
people around
you.
you are
And talk to
amazing.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
thank you so
nice to
much.
talk to
And
you. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you in New York, and I'll see you hopefully in Kansas and in Washington, D.C.
Okay. We'll talk
Okay.
to you soon, Stan.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much, Sharice. So much appreciate it. And for those of you staying with us live, it's going to be about a 2-minute break, and we will be with Representative Chris Pappas. So see you in just about 2 or 3 minutes. See you later. I
Bye,
will tell him
everybody.
you said hi. Bye-bye.